Okay. All right, welcome Business 20 students. This is Mr. Doucette, and this is going to be an instructional video going over how to work out problems on Chapter 7 that deals specifically with trade and cash discounts. Trade discount is typically something that you would get when you buy items from a wholesaler or you buy things at bulk. They oftentimes will discount it as an incentive for you to buy a lot. And then, of course, if you're a retailer, you're going to take those items and you're going to mark them up. And that's how you basically make money, right? You buy it at a lower price and you sell it at a higher price. And so that is one way in which businesses make it attractive for you as a reseller to buy their products at bulk. And then a cash discount is when we do buy items at bulk, many times there's credit terms that are offered, maybe 30 days of short-term credit or 90 days, and they give you that amount of time to pay it back. And they'll often offer you a discount if you pay it back earlier than that. So, for instance, they might say you have 90 days to pay for the items that we already gave you a trade discount on, but if you pay it in 15 days, we'll give you an additional 3% or 5% off your bill. So that's incentive for you to pay it off sooner and for them to get their money quicker. So this is what we'll be looking at in this particular instructional video. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen there and I'm going to start sharing my screen here. I'm going to show you some worksheets. So I'm basically working through some worksheets that I provide just to kind of cover the chapter and to work through how to work out some of these problems. And so, as mentioned in the beginning, this is trading cash discounts, and it gives you a little definition there of each one of those. But I will scroll down because typically when you do buy something at bulk or from a wholesaler, they'll oftentimes generate an invoice or a PO. They call it a PO, where you're gonna promise this is what you've ordered, this is the cost, and then you're promising to pay for these items that they're going to ship to you. So this is and it's in some ways it's a receipt, if you will, of your order, as well as it'll be a receipt of your payment once you make the payment. And so this is kind of a pretty typical looking invoice. It has the name of the company, and your chapter gets into how to read all of these different sections. But really, what you need to be most concerned with in a invoice is the date of the invoice. So this one's dated June 16th. And then also the terms of the invoice. So this one is net 30, meaning that they expect you to pay it in 30 days. Now, this particular invoice does not offer any cash discounts, but they are going to offer us a trade discount. But first thing they're going to do is give us a list price for all of the items. So, and that's the first thing I kind of want to cover with you. I'll go over it in a minute. Is there's list price. That's what they sell them for. And then there is what we call net price, and that's what you actually end up paying for them after you've been given some kind of a trade discount. So it's always starting with list price. So list price would be the same thing that we often use the term of retail price. So let's just say they have a new iPhone, and the new iPhone will say the suggested manufacturer retail price is this amount. Well, that's how much you should be able to buy it for at any retailer. And most companies nowadays are pretty strict on those manufacturer retail prices. But when you're buying in bulk and you're buying from the wholesaler, again, they will give you a trade discount. But when they're first writing up the invoice, they often will use the list price. So that's what we're looking at here. We have 16 cases of tape, and it was ordered and shipped. So that means this is what we ordered, this is what they shipped. So everything was shipped except for, if you notice the third item, they must have been back ordered on some of that 2-inch reflective tape because they only sent me 11 boxes. Either way, I got 16 cases of half-inch. I got 12 cases of inch and a half. I got 11 boxes of 2-inch, and then I got 37 cases of assorted sandpaper. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to add all that up. So if they're $21 a unit and I got 16 of them, it would be $21.90 times 16. And that would give me a total of, hopefully I don't mess this up here. We got to click out here. So 300, if you add it all up, that'd be $350.40 change. The 12 cases of masking tape, 1.5 inch for $26.79. It comes out to $321 and 48 cents. And then the 11 boxes of reflective tape comes out to $974. They're quite expensive, and 16 cents. And then the 37 cases of sorted sandpaper at 74.84 came out to $2,769.08. So always you're going to be adding up the cost of your invoice. If I total that all up, it comes out to $4,415.12. Now there's some shipping charges included on this one, and it says here that it's going to be shipped to Ellingham, Illinois. So because it says FOB, that means that the whatever address is in here means that's the person who's going to pay for it. And if you notice, JM Hardware is located in Lansing, Michigan. So that means I'm paying for the shipping, which was $61.45. So if I add those two items up here, it comes out to $4,476.57. Sorry for my 50, was it $56? Let me make that look like a 6. Okay. And so my invoice total would be $4,476.57. I should have just added it right there and not here. So, all right, so that's my invoice amount. Now, let's just say this company decides to offer you a 25% cash discount, or excuse me, trade discount on the items that you've purchased. Well, if that's the case, I could use my little triangular formula that we started with last week, and I can put my $4,476.57, and I can multiply by 0.25 because that's 25%. If I do the math on that, it comes out to $1,119.14. Now that is my discount, right? So that means if I take my $4,476.57 and I minus $1,119.14, my new invoice total, which I could have written there, is now $3,357.43. So they gave me a 25% discount. So what would have cost me almost $4,500 now only cost me $3,400. Now I have $1,900 that I can make in profit by reselling these items at list price. So that $3,357.43, the invoice total now would actually be my net price of what I paid. Now you could have went through each item and again minus the 25% on each one. We didn't do that. We just took it off the total bill. And that's how we get to our trade discount. Now, again, I've used the triangular formula, so I'm going to go ahead and add another document here from my worksheets. So let me go to Chapter 7, Worksheet 2. So here we'll work through this same problem a little bit. So I'm going to just leave it right here. So again, we have the list price. That's often what is known as the retail price. That's what they're telling you that they're going to sell it to you for. The rate is what percent of discount you get, or you might call that discount rate. So if they say I'm going to give you a 25% discount rate, that's what we said on the invoice that we were looking at. In fact, let me move this over just a little bit here. And then that way we can see the prices again. All right, and then the discount amount is how much did I save? So in this case, I saved $1,119.14. And then what was the net price? The net price was $3,357.43 because I got to deduct the discount amount. Now, again, this is the same problem that I just did. I took the triangular formula that we've been using, and I put the list price here. I multiplied it by the discount rate, so I'll just call that DR, and then that gave me my discount amount, DA. So this is very similar in many ways to the formula that we used for percentages, because the discount amount is a portion of the list price based on the rate or the discount that you're going to be given. So that's the formula we can use. It's, again, the same thing as the base times the rate equals the portion. Now it's the list price times the discount rate equals the discount amount. So our discount amount, as we saw, was $1,119.14. That was our discount amount. Our rate was 25%. All right, so then it says here, we'll give a different problem. Gifts galore. Retail shop buys merchandise with a list price of 7,600. So let's go back to our formula. So we know instead of base, we're going to put list price in the bottom left corner. And they're going to offer me a 30% trade discount. So they want me to tell them what is the discount amount and what is their, oh, that's all they're asking for. What is the amount of the trade discount? So if I take 7,600, I multiply it by 30%, 0.30. That gives me a total of $2,280. So if I take my 7,600 and I minus $2,280, that now gives me a net price of $53.20. Now, there is a quicker way to get to the list price, and we'll be learning that as we move on ahead in our course here, but it's what we call the complement method. And so basically, if the discount amount is 30%, that means that I'm paying 70%, right, of the actual bill. So yeah, I got 30% discount off of $7,600. That came out to $2,280, but that means I actually paid 70% of the $7,600. So if I wanted to, I could use this formula. We call this the complement formula. It would be 7,600 because what it's going to give me is the list price times 1 minus the rate, 30%. That equals 0.70 because that's what would be remaining, right? If I remove the discount amount of 30, that leaves 70. So if I multiply 7,600 by 70, I would get the list price, 53.20. And that's what we call the complement method. So you got to keep in mind when you're doing these problems that if I'm getting a discount, everything's in 100 terms of 100%, right? So if I'm getting a 25% discount, that means I'm paying 75% of the bill, right? If I'm getting an 80% discount, that means I'm paying 20% of the bill. So it's always going to be the complement of the rate. And so the complement of 30% is 70. That's 100% minus 30 equals 70. And that's how we solve some of these problems when we're trying to get to just the list price. Now, again, I solved this problem the first way by just finding out how much was the discount amount on 7,600. 30% discount on 7,600 came out to 2,280. And then I took my 7,600, which was my net list price, minus the discount amount of 2,280, and that gave me my net price of 53.20. Or I could have just deducted the percentage of the discount. That left me with 70% of the 7,600 that I would pay, and that's the same amount, 53.20. So that's what we call utilizing the trade and cash discount, or excuse me, the trade discount amount. And we'll be getting into now solving for different aspects. That one we were just solving for the discount amount, and we'll probably do a few more of those. And then we will start looking at how to solve for the rate or how to solve for the list price, etc. So let me open page 3 of chapter 7. Here's the next page. All right, so we are going to look at Panorama Products. They offered a 25% discount rate. The complement of that would be 75%. If you multiply the list price by 75, you would get the net price. So that's what we kind of just did on the same order. But since Gifts Galore offers, and again, since Gifts Galore offers a 30% trade discount, if you want to simplify and find the net price, you would multiply the list price by the complement, which is 70%, and it would automatically give you your net price. So that's basically explaining what I just explained in the prior slide. All right, so now we want to find the trade discount rate. So how do we find out what the discount rate was? Well, it's pretty simple, just like we learned in the portion formula. If you have the portion, right, and you have the base, that will tell you, and divide those two by one another, that would give you the rate. In the same way, that looked like this, by the way, in our formula. That was our portion formula. So we had the portion, we had the base, and then we had the rate. And remember, this line represents division. This line represents multiplication. So if I divide the portion by the base, it gives me the rate. Well, in the same way here, instead of portion and base and rate, we're going to do list price, discount amount, and rate. So it's the same thing. If I divide the discount amount by the list price, that's going to give me the rate. If I multiply the list price by the rate, that's going to give me the discount amount. So looking at that, Wilson Sporting Goods recently sold tennis rackets, listing for $109,000. So let's just do it this way. We'll do 109,000, 109,500. And they have a net price order of 63,300. So that would be my net price. And then it says, what is the trade amount of the trade discount? Well, there's two ways to do this problem. One is I could minus the 63,000 from the 109. That gives me a discount amount of 46,200. And I could write that in here. Hold on. I'll do the same problem again. Again, that's list price. And then here's discount amount of 46,200. If I divide those two, it would give me the rate. So if I do that, I divide 46,200 by 10,000, 109,500, it comes up to 0.4219 or 42.2%. So that was the rate of change. What was the rate of was the discount rate? It was 42.2%. That's what I got. Now again, but I could have also did it this way, where I divided these two with one another, and then I would just basically take it, 1 minus the rate would be my answer. So if I divided these two together, I would get 0.578 roughly. And what is 1 minus that? 42.2. So that was another way to do it. And we'll be looking at that. So now I'm using the list price. So again, the list price includes the percentage for which I'm going to pay from the list price. So I have to include that in. And what percentage is that? It's, in this case, it's almost 60%, but that doesn't tell me exactly what my discount rate was. It only tells me what my list price rate was. So I have to deduct it from 1. That gives me then my discount rate that I've received. So anyway, the next few problems I'm not going to work out for you. Maybe I'll do a couple of them, but these are going to be you just figuring out what is the discount trade and then what is the net price. So again, I could just multiply these straight across, and that would give me the solutions to those. So I would just multiply, for instance, I could multiply 8,600 times 30%, and that would give me a trade discount of, here, of $258. And then I could minus that from the 860, and that would give me 602. Or I can, again, to figure out the trade discount, I multiply $41.75 by 19%. That comes out to $7.93 of a discount. I can minus that from the 41.75, and that gives me a net price of $33.82. And this is basically me using the formula in the same way. If I had $134.79 item, I got a 40% trade discount. 40% of that, if I multiplied those together, would be $53.93. If I subtracted that discount from the original list price, that would give me my net price of $80.87. And then same thing here. My 21.29 at a 45% discount came out to a $9.48 discount. So I can minus that from the 21.29, which means my list price is $11.71. And, or if I go to the next page, I can do the same problems, but this time doing the complement method and getting the net price without really having to worry about what the trade discount amount was. So let me show you that page. Let me delete this. All right, let's get rid of it. All right, and let me add the next page. Page 4, I believe. All right, page 4, and this one starts with now finding the complement rate and then the net price. So again, if I use the complement of the discount rate, that gives me the net price rate, and that net price rate is going to give me the answer is going to be the net price. So again, if my trade discount rate is 30%, and if I minus 1 from 30%, that gives me 70%. So that's my rate, right? The opposite. If my discount rate is 19%, then that means it's going to be 81% that I pay. If my discount is 40%, that means I'm going to be paying 60% of the total. If my discount rate is 45%, that means I'm going to be paying 55% of the total. So now I would just do the math from the list price to each of these. And again, 70, it comes out to $602 with that's how much I'm going to have to pay my net price. If you look back at that last page, if you filled out or if you saw that, it was 602, same price. 4175 times 81 is 3382. So that is my net price. That's what I'll actually pay after my discount. 134.79 times 60% means I'm going to pay $80.87, I believe it is. And then lastly, if I pay 55% of 21.29, I'm going to be paying $11.71. So keep in mind, and this is very important when we start trying to solve for rate, is that the rate is expressed in terms of the discount rate, but you're dealing with the net price and the list price. You have to use the complement of that discount rate because that's then the net price rate, and that's going to be whatever remains from the discount amount. So find the amount of a trade discount of 30% on a television that has a list price of $799.95. So we're going to do the list price and trade discount. This is back to the first thing we were doing. So I'm just going to write it up this way. By the way, the only reason I'm using this formula is maybe you don't really feel like you need to use it, is when we get to the next phase of things, simple interest, we're going to be utilizing it and we're going to be adding other categories to it. And it's not going to be something that you could just do. So if you get used to using the formula, it's going to help you in the long run. So $79,995 times 30% comes out to a $239.99 discount. So that's your discount amount. That's your discount rate. And this is your list price. Now, again, well, then the question might be, what is the net price? It doesn't ask me that. It's just asking me to find the trade discount. But let's just say it asked me what is the list price. Well, I could take the $799 that was the list price, sorry, net price, and 95, sorry, and then minus the discount amount of $239.99. And if I did that, that would give me a net price of $217.52. Right? All I did was I deducted the discount amount. Did I do that right? Oh, sorry, looking at the wrong problem. It gave me wrong problem. Hold on. I put the answers down for the wrong problem. So give me a second. I'm going to erase that. That's not what it would be. It would be instead $559.97. All right. Sorry about that. All right. So $799 minus the discount was the list price minus the discount amount comes out to a net price, NP, of $559.97. Or if I wanted to use the net price formula, I would take the list price again, $799.95, and I would multiply it by the complement of 30%, right? So 1 minus 0.30 equals 0.70. And then I'd multiply $799.95 by 0.70, and that would give me my list price of $559.97. So all I did was remove the need to subtract the discount amount, and I was able to figure out, well, if I'm getting a 30% discount, that means I'm paying 70% of the bill. So what's 70% of the bill? And that's how I figured it out. All right. What is the amount trade discount of a 45% on a dining room set that lists for? So these are all very similar problems. Let's work them out real quick. So I'll just do it again. 35.95.50 times 45%. That gives me my discount amount of $177.98. Or I could have done it this way, where I just did the 35,950 times the complement of 0.45. That means if I got a 45% discount, I'm going to pay 55% of the bill, and that came out to $217.52. If I deduct the 177 from the 395, it would come out to 217. So, all right, and then the item with the trade discount of 41% has a list price of 289. So we're doing the same problem again. I'm just really letting you work it out. So 289.50 times 0.41. That would get me my discount amount. If I want to find what my net price is, I can do 289.50 times 0.59. Do the math on both of those. And this would come out to 170.81. And this would come out to 118.70. So there is the two. Oh, actually, sorry, this was opposite. I did it backwards. This is 118.70. I was figuring because it's not quite half. And then this, the net price of that, if I multiply 250 by 59, that's what I'm paying, it would be 170.81. So there you have it. I just worked it out both ways. Again, I could have got my net price by subtracting the discount amount from the list price, but instead I just complemented the discount. I removed the discount rate. Whatever is left is what I'm paying, which is 0.59%. And I did that. That gave me 170.81. Any questions so far on any of this? That's good. All right. So this is, again, what we call trade discounts. I think we're going to work out a few problems here with trying to solve for other things other than just the rate. So let me go ahead and subtract this one. Delete that page. All right. Nathan and David's Beauty Salon places an order for beauty supplies from a wholesaler. The list price of the order is $2,800 and offers a trade discount of 46%. What is the net price of the order? So again, I could do this twice. I could first find out what is the discount amount, and I could subtract it. So $2,800 was the list price, and they're going to give me a 46% discount. So I could do the math on that. That would give me a discount amount. Or I can just since I'm just trying to find the net price, I can subtract that. So that gives me 0.54. So I multiply 2,800 by 0.54. If I'm getting a 46% discount, that means I'm paying 54% of the bill. So if I multiply 2,800 by 54, that gives me 1,000. So my bill is going to be $1,512. That is my net price of the order. Again, I could have found the discount amount first, subtracted it from the 28, and that would have given me the same amount. All right, now I want to find the rate, and this is where it becomes a little trickier, but let's keep this in mind. The same formula I was showing you. So a watch has a list price of $889 and can be bought by Sterling Jewelers for a net price of $545.75. So there's two ways I could do this. I could go back to just like we did on the portion formula when we were trying to find the amount of difference. That was when we were doing that. But what we're going to do this time is we're going to do 889 here. And we could go 889. This is how we learned how to find the difference, the percentage of difference between two numbers. And we do 545.75, and that would give me a difference of $343.52. I could have did it that way. And then I could divide 343.52 by 889, and that would give me a discount rate of 0.3861, or the same thing as 38.1%. That's one way to do it. Or if I'm getting a 38% discount, that means the opposite of 38 is the amount that I'm going to be paying. So I could have just put the 554, the net price here, and the list price here. And I could have divided them, and then whatever the answer is, I would subtract from 1. So if I divide 545 by 889, I would get an answer of 0.61389. And I would minus that from 1. That would give me an answer of 0.3861, or the same thing as 38.1%. So you see, I got the same result. The only difference is I had to subtract it from 1. So keep in mind, if I'm dealing with the net price, I want to subtract 1. I want to subtract my answer from 1. If I'm dealing with the discount amount, I don't need to do anything. So again, the discount amount one, this first one is more like the portion formula. And this one here is now what we might call the net price formula. It would look like this. So it would be list price times 1 minus the rate equals the net price. And I believe that's in your formula sheet. Then it asks me, what is the trade discount rate? Well, I already gave you the trade discount rate, and I gave you the amount of the trade discount. Trade amount of the trade discount was $343.52, and the rate of the trade discount was 38.1%. All right, last problem on this page is Sterling Matthew Factory. I think it's supposed to be manufacturing. Sells tools to the American Garden Supply. In a recent transaction, the list price order was $47,750. I'm just going to do this. This one wants to know the trade discount rate. So $47,750. And I'm going to do what I've been teaching you. And then the net price was $32,100. Now the net price includes the percentage that they paid. So we're going to deduct that out. So if I divide these two as they are, and then I minus my answer from 1, that's going to give me the trade discount rate. So this is right now, if I solve it, it's going to give me the net price discount or net price rate, but I want to know the trade rate. So I need to first divide these two, which comes out to 0.67225. So that's my answer, 0.67225, but I have to minus it from 1. So that would equal then 3.3277, or 32.8%. So that is my discount rate, right? This is my net price rate of the problem, and here's my. And now why did I get the net price rate? Because I used the net price and divided it by the list price. That gave me my net price rate, but I needed to subtract that from 1 to get my discount rate. That's how I solved that problem. Again. All right, so now I'm going to start looking at cash discounts. And cash discounts are typically those terms that you might get on an invoice. I showed you at the beginning the invoice, and it had net 30, which means that it was due in 30 days. But there is additional types of discounts that you get, as you can see on your screen right now. I think you're seeing it. Yeah, there's 3, 15, and 30 right in the middle there. So the first one is the percentage of discount that you could get. The second one is the days you have available for the discount. And then the third one is when everything is due in 30 days. So if you pay it all, though, in 15, you're going to get a 3% discount. And so this is what we need to be aware of when it comes to those cash discounts. And so kind of some of the terminology is listed there. There's an invoice date. I think I showed you in the first part of the video that there was an invoice, and on the invoice it had an invoice date. That's very important because that's what gets the clock ticking. So once the invoice date is put in there and they say you have 15 days, it's 15 days from that invoice in a standard cash discount. Now, there is specialty cash discounts like receipt of goods. It's ROG. You can see that at the bottom of the list. That means that the clock doesn't start until you receive the goods. So I might have ordered them 2 weeks ago and didn't get them yet, and now I got them. So the day that I got them, the clock starts ticking for my 15-day discount. The other thing is cash discount. So again, this is where we are being given incentive to pay our invoice off early, in this case within 15 days. Terms of the sale is what you're seeing there. The 3/15 and 30 are the terms, and those are going to be different for all kinds of invoices. This is just an example that we're showing. And then there is the discount period. So again, it's It's the second number. I get 3% discount in 15 days. So that would be the discount period is 15 days. And then the credit period is 30 days. So they're basically saying you're not going to get any interest charge. You're not going to get any additional charges if you pay it within 30 days. Now, however, if you don't pay it within 30 days, you may get a late charge. You may get dinked with more stuff. That's not mentioned in the terms. Maybe their policy that you have as a purchaser from them states that if you don't pay it within the invoice dates, that you're going to be automatically subject to additional fees. But in the terms of a cash discount, it basically everything is due in 30 days. And then there's two other terms within cash discounts. Again, receipt of goods, nothing, the clock does not start ticking until you get the goods. So that's why we have to pay attention to the invoice date. And then there's also one called end of month. And this is a whole different way of calculating when your discount period ends and when the items are actually due. And so it'll say end of month. And then that means I use those terms. And it's something that you have to kind of know by definition, but we'll go over that in just a second. All right, so looking here then at the invoice that we're looking at, we have a 315 N30, and it says right here, let's just say for the above invoice, the date was March 5th, and the amount of the invoice was $12,425. So the invoice date is March 5th. The discount period then would be 15 days later, right? So 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th. You can just count the days. 15 days later, that means if I pay it by March 20th, I will get a 3% discount. All right. And the invoice would be due 30 days. So the invoice is dated March 5th. Then it would be due on April 9th. You might say, well, how come it's April 9th? Because March is a 30-day month, right? 30 days after April, June, and November. A 31-day month, sorry. So it would be 30 days after. I don't know if April 9th is correct. Anyway, March 5th. So March 5th to April 5th would be 31 days. So actually it would be due March or April 4th. So this is an incorrect statement. Let me fix that. It would be an incorrect statement because there's 30 days, 31 days in March. So March 5th to April 5th would actually be 31 days. So it would be April 4th. So we'll just put that here. Let's fix that. This is April 4th. All right. If I paid the invoice, however, on March 19th, I said I had till March 20th, I get a 3% discount incentive for paying it off early. So if I owed $12,425 and I get a 3% discount, that's a $372 discount that I would get. So if I pay it by the 19th, I'm actually going to only have to pay $12,052.25. So that's pretty cool, right? That's the incentive for paying it off a little bit early. However, if I don't pay it off, that's okay. I can just pay the whole thing, the $12,425. I can pay the whole thing on the 30th, the April 4th, and be okay. So we'll look at another example. Rugs.com buys merchandise with an invoice amount of $16,000 from Kerrison Carpet Mills. The terms of the sale are 2 and 10 and 30. What is the amount of the discount? And what is the net amount due on this order if the bill is paid on the 10th day? So the 10th day is within the period of 2% off. So I could simply take the 16,000. I can multiply it by 0.02. I think I have it already worked out, so I don't have to do the math. That comes out to a discount of $320. And I can take that 16,000 minus $320. And I would be then paying $15,680. That's how much I would have to pay on the 10th. Now, the next day, I wouldn't get the discount, so it would go back up to the 16,000, but it's on the 10th of the month, and I have 2 and 10, so it met the terms. But let me show you a quicker way to get to my net price. Is if this is how much of a discount I'll get, then that means I'm going to be paying the complement of that. I'm going to be paying 98% of the bill, right? So if I pay it by the 10th, 98% of the bill will come out to $15,680. So I just took the complement of that to find out how much I would actually have to pay. And I didn't have to worry about the discount. So in this case, it asked you what is the net price. So actually, what is the cash discount? So we figured that out. And then what is the net price on the order? We figured that out. But we could have did it this way too. We could have just did 16,000 by 2. That's the discount. 16,000 by 0.98 because that's what's remaining that I still have to pay. That's 15,680. I could have solved it that way as well. All right, let me move on to the next page here. So that is cash discounts. We're going to go over a few more problems on this so that way you're fully prepared to face whatever comes your way in the area. I think I'm on 6. I might be on 7. Let's see. Nope, that was 6. Okay, I'm going to go back. Apologies for the wait. Oh, I keep selecting the same one. My apologies. I'm on page 7. Right. We only have 2 more pages to go. All right. So now we're going to be looking at some word problems that deal with this. So here we go. Valiant Plumbing orders sinks from a supplier, has a net price of 8,300. So you might, when you do these problems, you might want to just write this stuff down. You might want to just go, okay, net price. So let's write that down. Net price. Remember, net price is what I actually paid, not list price. So 83,000 was my net price. And terms of the sale were 3, 15, and 45. Actually, this really shouldn't say net price. It should say list price because I know the problem. This is a mistake. All right, so that's list price, not net price. We'll put an L there. All right, and so they want us to figure out here what is the amount of the cash discount if the net amount is due, if the net amount due if the bill is paid on the 15th of the month. So the 15th would still be within the discount period. So it doesn't really matter what that is. We just know that we're getting a 3% discount. So we're going to take our 83,000. Oops, comma in the wrong spot. Sorry about that. Times 0.03 for 3%. That's going to give me my discount amount. I'm also going to take the 83,000 and I'm going to multiply the complement of that 0.97, and that's going to give me my net price, right? That's how we do it. So let's see here. Valiant Plumbing, I did work this out. So it comes out, the first one, discount amount comes out to $249. And that's how much a discount amount I'm going to get. That means my list price or net price is going to be, if my discount was 3%, that means my net price is going to be 97%. And that comes out to $8,051.00. Now, again, I could have done this with the triangles, and I'm only going to show you this because I want you to continue to use those. I would do 83,000 times 0.03 would give me my discount amount. Or I could do my 83,000 and use the list price, net price formula times 1 minus 0.03, which would be 0.97. And that would give me my net price. All right, now we're going to get into the dates because the dates become a little fun here. And I'm going to just say this about the dates. Your book gets into all these really mathematical ways of calculating the date. I'm just going to recommend that when you do the dates, that you just do it by using your calendar on your phone and just counting the days or the months. Sometimes it's like a lot of terms. So you will, like this one here has 2 discounts. It has one on April it has a 3 and 15 and then another 2% and 30, but the whole thing's due in 45 days, as you can see here. So keep in mind, this one's going to have a double discount. So they're asking me here if the invoice is $3,400 and it's dated August 7th, and the sale of the terms are such. If it was paid on August 19th, well, that is less than 15 days after August 7th. So I would get the 3% discount, right? So let's just say 3,400, the triangle, times 0.03. That's going to give me my discount amount, which is going to be $102. That'll be $102, but they want to know what the list price was. So I'm going to do the same formula, but this time I'm going to do 3,400 times 0.97. And that comes out to $3,298, which is the same thing as 3,400 minus 102. So that's what my net price would be if I paid it on the 19th. However, I don't pay it on the 19th. I paid it on the 3rd instead. September 3rd is now within the 2% discount. So again, I would still do the 3,400. This time I'd multiply it by 0.02 to find my discount amount. That's going to come out to 3,400 times 0.02 is a $68 discount. Or I could have, again, just used the complement method to find out what the net price was to begin with. So I can multiply by 0.98. And 3,400 by 0.98 is $3,332. Oops. 3,332. So the first one I saved $102 by paying it by the 19th, and I saved $68 by if I instead paid it by the 3rd. All right, the next problem is where most students struggle, and this is what we call partial payments. So let's just say you have a cash discount and you decide to make a partial payment before the discount rate, just discount date. And in this case, that means that you're going to get a discount on the portion that you paid. So what kind of discount would you get? So in this case, All Pro Center Sporting Goods Center purchases $45,300 in baseball gloves on May 5th and allows a 4 and 15 net 45. All Pro sends we send a $20,000 payment on the discount date. But that's not the whole 45, so we still have 25,300 left, right? So we're going to figure out how much do we owe and when is it due. What it says how much credit will be given for the partial payment and what is the amount due on the order. So that's what we're going to figure out. So the first thing to figure out is, well, how much. So we know that the list price, was 45,300. It's actually net price. I keep calling it list price. It's net price because it's probably after a trade discount, but it doesn't matter. At this point, it becomes a list price. And then we're going to give them a 4 and 15 and 45 terms. All right. But they pay $20,000 on the discount date, right? So the first thing we need to figure out is, well, how much credit or how much credit am I going to get for paying the 20,000? And all I would need to do there is take the 20,000 and I'd multiply it by this is a 4%, so 0.96. That's going to give me the credit. Oh, sorry. I did it wrong. It's not going to be multiply. It's going to be divide by. So this would be as if we were using, I'll go back to the triangle, just not to confuse anybody. It would be if we went like this. And we said, okay, this is a 3% discount or a 4% discount, but it's 1 minus because this is the net price. So we're going to figure out how much is it worth. So we divide 20,000 by 0.96, and it comes out to $20,833. So I'm getting an $833 discount off that bill. So now I take my 45,300 and I minus the payment, 20,833. And that comes out to now a new balance of $24,466.67. So when you're figuring this kind of a partial payment problem, you definitely need to figure out, what is the amount of credit that they're going to give me for paying it early. And in this case, we didn't deduct it. We counted it as a credit, and then we added it to the payment. And it seems to work better that way. You might say, well, wait a minute, I get 15% off. It says 15. Yeah, 15 days, not 4% off. So let's for fun, let's just work it out the long way rather than the way that I did it. So let's go 40. Let's go, 20,000. See, if I did 20,000 and then I multiplied that by 0.04, probably getting way sidetracked here because I didn't do this. So let's pause. Okay, so when you're solving a partial payment problem for a cash discount, make sure that you divide the amount of the partial payment, if it's within the discount period, by the complement of the rate. So in this case, 4%, the complement of that was 0.96. And that's how you get to the true discount credit that you're going to get for that partial payment. All right. Okay, I'm going to move on now to the next items, which happen to be the different terms such as receipt of goods and the end of month. I know some people struggle with the end of month. So let me go to this sheet, and I might have a couple more problems to work out before I get to that. But yeah, here's another one with a partial payment, but it also says receipt of goods. So ROG, when that's added to your terms, that means that you don't start the discount period until you've received the goods. And so the problem already gives us that. For instance, it says here that there were some sofas purchased in Thailand, and those sofas were purchased on April 14th. Excuse me, they received them on April 14th, but they were purchased on March 2nd. So the terms ROG means that the discount period does not start until they receive the goods, which was on April 14th. So that's when the discount period starts. Otherwise, they wouldn't get any discount, right? Because 15 days was long gone based off of the invoice date, March 2nd. So we're going to do another problem that has a partial payment, and we're also going to do, we're going to go ahead and talk about how to do the ROG as well. So let's see. Paper clip. All right, so the first thing is we want to figure out what is the partial payment. So if the payment was received on April 27th, that was only, 13 days after they received the goods. So we're still within the discount period. So, and they made a $15,000 partial payment. So we'll take the 15,000. We're going to divide it by the complement of the rate, which is 3%. So 0.97 because 3% was the rate. So that gives us a partial payment credit of $15,463.92. That's pretty good, huh? So $463.92 credit that they got towards that payment. So then they want to know, okay, what is now the total for the receipt? So it was 46,230 minus 15,463.92. I could subtract that, and that comes out to, where's my price here? Comes out to 32,000. Oh, you know what I didn't add in there though was the shipping. So I'm going to add the shipping into that. 2165. So I'm going to add all that. I'm going to add these two, and then I'm going to subtract that one. And the total of all that comes out to $32,931.08. The total of these two together comes out to 48,395. And then I minus the 15,463. That came out to 32,931. So that is how much they will owe on day receipt of goods. So receipt of goods is automatically 30 days. So if we receive the goods on 4/14, that's April 14th, right? And then we add 15 days for the discount period. So that comes out to 4/29. So that was the discount period. And we said they paid it on 4/27. So we still got the discount. Or we could do 4/14 plus 30. 30 days brings us to, oh no, 20 days. Sorry, I was mistaken. It's plus 20 days. Anytime it's receipt of goods, this is a rule you need to know. It's plus 20 days. I forgot. So it's 4/14 plus 20 days. Or sorry, 4/29 when the discount period ends, plus 20. All right, sorry about that. Let me back up for a second. I'm remembering this as I'm working out the problem. So on a receipt of goods, your discount period, the end of your discount period is plus 20 for your net date. So there's, if you notice, it says 315 ROG. That ROG means that it's plus 20 after the discount date. So the discount date ended on 4/29. That's what I figured in the first part here. And so I add 20 days to that. That comes out to 5/19. So it's 20 days after the discount period ends, and the discount period ends on 4/29. So plus 19 or plus 20 days brings you to 5/19. So I hope that makes sense. So those are some rules that you would find in the book. Is basically when it says ROG, that means the terms are 20 days after discount period ends. So since it ended on the 29th, 20 days is 5/19. That's when it's absolutely due. All right, we're gonna look at a date here, and then we'll do the end of month. So Great Impressions Printing buys ink paper from a supplier. The invoice date of the purchase is June 11th. The terms are 4/10 and 60. What are the discount date and net date of the invoice? So they're not asking us about any money. They just want to know what's the discount period and when does it end. So the best way to do this is the way that your book does it. They'll do this. They'll do invoice date is June 11th, so 6/11. And then they'll go 10 days, right? So 6/11 plus 10 days is 6/21, right? So that's your discount period. And then you have N60. So 60 goes from the other date, from this date. And then this is 60 days later. So what is the date on that? And the date on that is 8/10. So how did I figure that out? I figured it out by doing a little table here. So 6/11 plus 10 days is 6/21. That's the end of my discount period. And then N30, in this case, since it's not ROG, it starts from the receipt of goods or from the invoice date all the way till when it's actually due. And if you add 60 to 6/11, it comes out to August 10th. And that's because June is a 30-day month, but July is a 31-day month. So add the extra day. It would be August 11th if each month was 30 days, but because July is 31 days, which happens to be my birthday, by the way, that extra day gets deducted, so it's 8/10. So there's your terms, right? It's not really difficult to do this. I would just use a calendar and count the days, and that's going to be the best way that you can handle it. All right, so now we get into this end of month terms, and this is really a lot easier than it may sound. Basically, the rule is right there in bold. If it has the EOM on your terms, as it does there, 2 in 10, 2% in 10 days EOM, or Proximo is another way to say it. It means a 2% cash discount will not be allowed if the bill is paid in 10 days after the end of the month invoice. So, but notice the bold text. This is the case for any invoice dated the 1st to the 25th of the month. An invoice dated after the 25th of the month, the terms of the sale begin after the end of the following month. So basically, if the invoice is dated from the 1st to the 25th, the terms don't start till the start of the next month, the first day of the next month, or you might say the last day of the existing month. So in this case, it says there, as the accounts receivable manager of Riverbend Industries, answer the following questions. What are the discount date and net date of the invoice dated November 18th? Well, is November 18th before or after the 25th of the month? It's before, right? So that means the terms for that particular loan start the beginning of the next month. So in this case, it would be 12/1. That's when your discount period begins. We call it end of month. So you start at the end of the month. So the first day of the next month is the beginning of those terms. It goes for 15 days. So from 12/1 to 12/15 is my discount period. And then it's going to be 20 days after the discount date that it's due. So in this case, I add 20 days to 12/15. So 12/15 to 20 days to that comes out to 12/35. There is no 12/35. So 12/31 and then January 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th. So it would be 1/4. That's when it's due. And again, it's all depending on the date of the invoice. The invoice is dated November 18th. So at the start of the next month, which is December 1st, that's the first day of my discount period. It goes for 15 days in this case. And then the entire thing is due 20 days after that. That's what we call the end of month. Now, what happens if it's after the 25th? And that's what I'm going to show you in the next page, what it looks like. So end of month is if it's on or before the 25th, it's just the next month. You just start counting the first day of the next month. But I think that was page 8. Yeah, here's the last one. However, if you notice here, we'll delete this. What are the discount date and rate if it's dated November 27th? So November 27th is after the 25th of the month, and it's the same terms. It's just when the invoice is dated. So this means that you would have not the beginning of the next month, December, but you would start the beginning of the next month, which would be January. So, in other words, it's 2 months from the date, 2 months with whichever month you're in. So in this case, if it's November 27th, so let's just do 11/27. And we're going to say, okay, that's the date of the invoice. However, we're using end of month terms and it's after the 25th. So that means it doesn't start not the beginning of December, but the beginning of January. So January 1st would start the beginning of the discount period. And that would go for 15 days to 1/15. And then the rest would be 25 days or 20 days later. So that couldn't be 2/15. It would have to be 1/31. There's 31 days in January. So that would be 2/4. It's due February 4th. So again, it depends on when the invoice is dated. If it's on or before the 25th, it's the next month. If it's after the 25th, all the way till the 31st, it is going to be the month after the next month. And that's the way that you do end of month. And it's actually pretty simple. So like, for instance, we could look at the next one and say invoice is dated August 21st with 418 EOM. What's the discount date? Well, the discount date is going to start September 1st and it's going to end on September 18th. And what is the net date? Plus 20. So it's going to be 8 days into May. 30 days has September, April. So it's going to be, excuse me, 8 days into, let's see, 18. So let's see, 18, 28, 29, 30 is going to be 6 days into May. So it's going to be May 6th. The discount date is April 1, or August, sorry, we're in the wrong months. September 1 through September 15th. September's 31 days. Sorry, I don't know why I'm thinking April. I was looking at this as the date. So then 9/15 plus 20 is going to be, and there's 30 days in the month of September, so that's going to end up being October, let's see, 5th, or October 8th. Oh, it's 18 days, not 15 days. Sorry. So 18. I'm really botching this one. So 9/1 to 9/18 is the discount period. That looks really bad. Plus 20 would put you to 9/38, but there's not a 38 days in September. There's 30, so that would bring me to 10/8. That would be the discount date. So ignore all this. Did that make sense, Sarah? Sorry. And I'm not going to cover extra dating. I don't give you any problems on that. So. Are you still with me, Sarah, or did you leave? You're still there.
Yes, I'm here.
All right, so I'm done. That's all I'm going to cover in this video. If you have any questions or concerns, please don't hesitate to reach out to me and ask questions, and also meet with me in my office hours if you need to.
Okay,
Have a
perfect.
great day, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Hopefully you enjoyed the
Bye.
video.